Okay, it's a beautiful afternoon, beautiful Tuesday afternoon on Kaftan TV. This is The Polity. My name is Segun Ojelade. Today on the program, we shall be talking Inec. Yes, the Independent National Electoral Commission, the body saddled with organizing elections in Nigeria. While the body has grown with experience since the start of the Fourth Republic, the road has been quite bumpy, but I think Inec is improving by every election. The last being last Saturday's by-elections that were held in 12 states of the Federation. The results are out, and the politicians are dragging it among themselves, as it usually is. Some of them are jubilating, while the others are crying wolves. We only hope that the result again will not end in the law courts, as has been the lot of elections in this country and the attitude of the Nigerian politician. But today we shall be talking Inec, and Inec. How is the body now? Is the body overwhelmed by the humongous amount of work on its desk? And how has it fared over the years? And what are the preparations on ground towards the 2027 general elections? These are some of the issues that we shall be looking at today on the program. My guest is the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of the Commission. He is Mr. Rotimi. The man is the spokesman of the Inec in the Federation, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi. I welcome you to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
It's a real pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I know that you're a very busy man, so it's not easy to drag you out of your office onto a platform like this. So it is well appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Like I said, we shall be talking Inec, and Inec. How has it been for the Commission? Is the Commission overwhelmed by the enormity of the work to be done? I know they usually tell us that election is not an activity. It's a combination of many activities, some of which for the 2027 election must have probably started. Is the Commission overwhelmed?
Thank you very much. I've often had some individuals speak on television, and they say that the Commission is overwhelmed, that some responsibilities should be taken away from us, yes, and all that. But for us at the Commission, we just see our functions as a normal thing. The Constitution gave us a mandate, and we have some functions that we perform, and as much as possible we perform those functions according to the powers given to us by the Constitution. And this includes registering voters, organizing national elections, registering and deregistering political parties and managing them, and so on and so forth. And for us, I think that since 1999 we have gained a lot of experience, and we have learned lessons. We have rejuvenated certain areas that we found some weakness. We have improved tremendously from where we started, and we are still improving. And I think that today the elections that we organize are far better than the one we used to organize when we set out, because again we have gained a lot of experience along the way. So I wouldn't describe our responsibilities as overwhelming. I would describe it as a normal way of life which we have gotten used to.
Okay, Inec has gotten used to organizing elections, the beavers, the electronic gadgets in the conduct of elections, and then when elections are over, litigations here and there. There could be over 100 litigations going on at the same time. So
hundreds, not even hundreds.
And then we have to hire lawyers,
right,
paying huge amount of money and the rest of it. I will ask again, bearing in mind all these activities that I've mentioned, don't let me use the word overwhelmed again. Let me use fully stretched.
Well, you touch on something now, litigation. I'm proud to say that Inec has 5 senior advocates of Nigeria in our litigation and prosecution department. I'm not sure any other public institution in this country with that number of highly revered senior advocates. So we have a very sharp side to litigation, and that's why we can never get it wrong. Of course, when the court cases become overwhelming, as they are likely to be, we then hire external solicitors to help us along the way. But I think that by and large, we are far better now to cope with litigations, with court matters than before. And that's why when we make our decisions, we never get it wrong. When you hear politicians complain or party officials complain that we took an action and they go to court, in most cases, the court will say, Inec is right, go and listen to Inec and all of that. And I think that, like I said when you asked about being overstretched, I don't think overstretched or stretched to the full is the right thing. We are coping, and we still have our head above the water, and we are still breathing, and we are breathing very well, and we are still strong.
Okay. Well, since you have mentioned the issue of who was the first to mention the issue of litigation?
It's you that mentioned
it. Okay. Now that we are talking litigation, why must INEC elections always end in litigations? Why?
That's a very good question. Everything is based on trust. INEC has the responsibility to organize election. And there is nothing that we do at the commission that we don't involve our stakeholders, especially the political parties. We have quarterly meetings with stakeholders, political parties, security agencies, civil society, the media, and all persons with disability. And we discuss quality issues, policy issues, and everything that has to do with election. Now, what has happened in Nigeria is that for some reason, politicians don't always believe that they can lose elections. That confuses me as a human being. I mean, you are going to a competition, for instance, you are going into an election. You cannot have the mindset that you will win that election, because you cannot determine in advance how people are going to vote. We organize elections, for instance, but we don't know who is going to vote for what. It's not our business who you vote for. Our own is to ensure that the process is clean, we provide a level playing field, and everybody has the access to vote, and we ensure the sanctity of the vote. But an average Nigerian politician doesn't think he or she will lose. So what has happened over the years is that when they win election, they are full of praises for INEC, but immediately they lose the election at any level, they blame INEC. They are rigged out. You talked about the by-elections that we organized in 12 states, 16 constituencies. And I've been reading all manner of narratives in the papers where those who win are praising INEC, those who lost are saying no. They made all manner of allegations. There was rigging, there was violence, there was, and they know it's not true. You may have one or two incidences in certain areas, but for God's sake, 12 states, 16 constituencies, largely the election went well, the processes went well. I think what we need to advise our politicians is that they should develop the spirit of sportsmanship and be ready to be, to accept the result of an election when it is clear that this election was conducted in a free, fair, and credible manner.
That's hard for politicians to
I think it is, and the earlier we take that as part of us, the better. Because so many things can happen when a political leader or a presidential candidate, for instance, disagrees with the process and begins to say things that is likely to instigate his followers, who in turn can then cause mayhem in what is referred to as post-election violence. And you find that in such cases, innocent people bear the brunt of it. So I think it's good for them to develop that spirit of sportsmanship.
Okay. Some of these issues, we're just touching them, we're leaving them, but if we have more time, we'll dwell more on them. Right. But there is one, so they say you should hit the iron when it is hot. I'm sure Inec has been observing these defections here and there, maybe to even to the APC as the major party. Almost everybody is moving into APC, right, left, and center. And then some people are saying, we are moving towards one party state. And I wonder, will INEC open his eyes and allow Nigeria to go into a one party state? Have you heard some of these narratives? What is the situation with INEC? Are you also apprehensive that the way we are going into a one party state?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. First of all, we have 19 registered political parties. And parties have a lifelong, they have time to exist, infinity. Except, of course, something happens. If they default, INEC has the power to deregister them based on certain criteria contained in the Constitution. So we have 19 registered political parties, and all of them have their officers, and we meet with them regularly. But INEC is not in the position to stop politicians from moving from one party to the other. It's beyond us. Part of our function does not include regulating movement or defections or preventing defection. What the Lord has done is to give grounds on which a person can defect from one party to the other. And one of the grounds is that if there is crisis or division in that political party, then you can defect to another party. And you see that it's not a recent phenomenon. People have always been defecting, and there has always been this controversy about, if you won and if you are elected on a particular ticket, belonging to one political party, and you are leaving that party to another, then you should give that up. So that has been in contention. Again, the law does not give INEC the power to decide on such things. They will have to approach the court to interpret the law and then tell them exactly, where they stand.
The one party state. Are we moving towards one?
We are not. We are not moving. I don't think that alarm is necessary. If you are having people moving to one political party, it doesn't mean that we are moving towards a one party state. In the by-elections that we just conducted, about 4 political parties won election in various places. So that should tell us something. That people still have their preferences. It depends on who they are looking at and the programs that you put forward that you want to execute.
Recently, INEC came out with the names of political parties and their officials. And many people were shocked that we thought ADC already has a new ESCO. Why is INEC living in the past? I'm still talking about the old chief executives of the party, whereas they say they have interim this, acting this, acting that. Why did INEC not? And then why did you have to, even in the case of LP, is INEC trying to stoke wahala in some of these new parties?
Thank you very much for the question. The political parties know that there are rules about everything. There are conditions to be fulfilled. If you are changing your ESCO, if you want to elect your ESCO, there are processes you must follow. And unless you follow that process, no matter what you do, we don't recognize such things. So it's like if there is vacancy in a state assembly or national assembly, it is not enough for the presiding officer to announce the vacancy. he has to communicate in writing to INEC to say this vacancy exists and tell us to do the right thing. But if you are just announcing in the House, then we can't take action based on that announcement. Therefore, if a political party is changing its executives, it has to do the paperwork. So ADC needs to follow through with the paperwork. And once the paperwork is done, we will change whatever needs to be changed. It's just a matter of paperwork. We are not against them doing whatever they want to do as long as they follow the rules.
It's like most times it is the courts that do mediate between INEC and the political parties. A case in point is when INEC said, this your candidates for the by-elections are not qualified. Now we remove them from the election, only for the court to say, no, you have to accommodate them. And then INEC had to make a U-turn to allow them to contest.
But we are going to appeal. You know, the fact that we disagree with the court judgment doesn't mean that we should disobey it. INEC is known for, it's very important for us to obey court orders. We don't joke with it. Even if we disagree, the pendency of it will still be taken in. But we have said we are going to, you know, disobey, we are going to appeal. INEC does not just take actions without going through the books. We take our responsibility very seriously. And the political parties need to learn to do things appropriately. That political party did not notify INEC with regard to the so-called convention that they held. And it's in the Electoral Act. You cannot hold a convention for the purpose of nominating candidates. You have to give INEC 21 days notice. They didn't do that. They just came with a list to say, this is what they have done. And we said, no, we just referred them to the relevant sections. But when they went to court, I don't know what happened in court. We got a ruling and then we have accepted. But we are going to appeal, to go to court to say, this is why this decision was wrong. And I'm sure by the time we prove to court what has happened, the court will say our point of view. We were not represented in court anyway. We were not aware. That's the truth of the matter. But like I said, political parties need to do things the right way so that we don't have these types of controversies here and there. We are not out to victimize any political party. In fact, we bend over backwards to accommodate them, their weaknesses and all that. But law is law, rule is rule. If there are rules and we don't obey those rules, then we are making nonsense of our democracy.
What if the LP candidates won in any of the by-elections, and then INEC goes to court, and the court says, well, the primary that nominated him is flawed? What becomes of his mandate? He doesn't have a mandate.
Of course, if we go to court, if for instance, you are talking of LP, I thought you were talking about the ADC.
No, it's the ADC.
If the ADC candidate wins or had won the election and we appeal and the court nullifies that, then he's going to be out of office. It's automatic.
Okay.
Because the basis on which he was elected is faulty, it's been dismantled.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk elections now, because that's where the bag is, on the back of INEC. Let's start like this. One of the major reasons why what you just said now happened during the election, that is, a candidate wins a mandate but is not able to enjoy the office because the primary that nominated him as a candidate is flawed, whether in court or anywhere else. Now, how is INEC ensuring that political parties do the right thing, especially because we've been hearing cases of people sitting somewhere just nominating candidates for election, and then I've forgotten what they call it in the party. They just pick somebody, say you are the one that is going to represent us on the ballot, and at the end of the day, the opposing parties go to court and then the party loses. Now, how are you ensuring that parties actually do the right thing, and INEC is present at everywhere they're doing their primaries?
You know, there's a limit to what Inec can do in managing political parties. Political parties manage their own internal affairs. That's not our business. But there are certain actions they cannot take without obeying the law. And as regulators that we are, we ensure that they obey the law. For instance, it's very clear in the Electoral Act that if you are holding convention, either for the purpose of electing a new executive or nominating candidates for election, you must inform Inec, right? And you must give 21 days notice. And the law also states that if you don't do that, then the convention or whatever it is null and void. It's very clear. What some political parties try to do is to be clever by half. Rather than do the right thing, they want to circumvent it. And we won't allow that, you know. So if you nominate candidates outside what the law says, we will not accept that. So some of them go to court and then say, the court says we should accept. We will obey the court order. But if after the election they won and somebody challenges it within the party or outside, and it gets to INEC to come and state what happened, we will go there and say that we did not monitor the election, that the primary election is null and void. It's as simple as that. We are not going to, you know, we can't help political parties to manage their primary election or whatever they do internally. Don't forget, each political party has got its own constitution. They are expected to obey their own constitution because their constitution will state how they manage their affairs vis-a-vis the compliance with the extant laws, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, the Electoral Act 2022, and INEC regulations and guidelines. To make, and that's why they have legal officers, legal advisors, that will tell them that compliance to this law is extremely important. You know, so if a political party chooses to disobey those laws, it will eventually get its fingers burnt. It has happened a number of times.
Yes.
So we are not going to allow them to subvert the law. And our doors are always open, that if they are confused or not clear about anything, we're always there to put them through that. Look, this is the right way to go, and we'll support the piece of advice we are given with the extant laws that exist to guide such processes.
You keep mentioning the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act. You mentioned the Constitution once. The Electoral Act is like it's your own piece of Bible to guide, or Quran to guide elections in Nigeria. But many people have flawed the Electoral Act. Anyway, since INEC has about 4 sons on its payroll, and the National Assembly is talking about retooling the law before the next election, has INEC identified some areas in the Electoral Act that needs to be tinkered with?
Well, I will be shocked if anybody is, you know, considering the Electoral Act as irrelevant, because you see, it's a body of laws. The Constitution itself cannot say everything A to Z. The Constitution talks about the substantive. The Electoral Act, as far as election is concerned, breaks those things down. So everything you see in the Electoral Act derives its strength and power from the Constitution. And in putting the Electoral Act together, the Constitution was the backbone of the effort. So you won't see anything in the Electoral Act that is not contained in the Constitution. If there is such a thing, then it will be at variance with the Constitution. So what I'm saying in essence is that in talking about the Electoral Act, we also talk about the Constitution, because there is no section you see in the Electoral Act that did not derive its strength from the main mother spider, which is the 1999 Constitution. And of course, it is from both the Constitution and the Electoral Act that INEC got its own power to put the regulations and guidelines together. That is why, if we are preparing for a general election, for instance, and they are about to amend the Electoral Act, INEC will have to wait until work is completed on either the effort to amend the Constitution or the Electoral Act before we now amend our own regulations and guidelines. Because it then means that whatever they change there, we have to look through our regulations and effect those changes to align 100% with what is in the Electoral Act. So it's the same body of law. It's just that one interprets the other more coherently than you will find in the Constitution, because like I said, the Constitution cannot say everything A to Z.
Okay, so in the operation of the Electoral Act, to INEC, it is a perfect document.
It is a good document, because that's where we derive our powers from. It's a good document, and that's our Bible. And when I say our Bible, it's like a 3-in-1 casing. You have a 3-in-1 book that has 3 parts. For us, Electoral Act, Constitution, and INEC regulation, all of them are one book. So it's only when you are trying to do the segmentation that you can say, okay, you are taking this from the Constitution, you are taking it from the Electoral, but all of them are linked together.
Okay. People say your BIVAS.
Right.
Is not perfect as INEC claim it is. Yes, it may have reduced the incidences of electoral inadequacies, but it's not a perfect document in the sense that some smart guys still go through. There are places where you will go, the BIVAS
yes.
BIVAS will not work, and then so many people will be disenfranchised. You told us so many things about network, told us a lot about batteries, so many things about generator and the rest of it. But at the end of the day, BIVAS will still malfunction in some areas, and some people will be disenfranchised. Are you looking into fresh alternatives, or maybe to rejig BIVAS for 2027?
Well, on the contrary, from all the reports that we have received from the time the BIVAS was introduced up to now, BIVAS has been praised by even our greatest critics as a near perfect device. And let me also give you a little bit of background. The BIVAS was introduced to replace the smart card reader.
Yes.
The smart card reader was used for the 2015 general election, and it was a very good innovation. You know, it uses the fingerprints to authenticate the voter for an election. But what happened? What happened was that for some reason, the authentication fails sometimes. Fingerprints of certain people could not be read for one reason or the other.
Yes.
And in a bid to solve that problem, INEC introduced the incident form. So the incident form is okay. The smart card reader cannot capture your fingerprint. Vote and fill the incident form, and then you can come back later to do your capturing and stuff like that. So anyway, politicians abused that process.
Of course.
It was impossible for people to vote for other people. It was impossible for anybody to go to any polling unit and say, this is my polling unit. If they don't find it in the register, they cannot authenticate, you give them incident form. So the abuses continue. INEC now thought out of the box, asked its ICT department, because BIVAS was our own homegrown device. It wasn't designed by anybody. We designed it ourselves. How do we stop this kind of fraud? There is a lacuna. How do we block it? So we now brought in the BIVAS. The BIVAS now takes both your fingerprint and your facial recognition. So the two will go. So if you come to the polling unit and you are not able to authenticate yourself via your fingerprint, the facial will be used, and your face will remain the same, because the special features of the face, the technology will recognize the features unique only to you, even if you are twins. If you are identical twins, the BIVAS will separate you because the application is there. And since it was introduced, it has done excellently well. It has prevented voting by proxy, and that's why vote buying has gone up. Because now, rather than warehouse PVCs,
so INEC is aware of vote buying.
Of course, we are aware of vote buying. Vote buying is there. That's why we brought in the EFCC into the ICSES, Interconsultative Committee on Election Security. That's why, because we found that that was the body that was created to deal with financial malpractices. And because we saw the spike, after introducing beavers, and some politicians realized that they can no longer circumvent that area, they had to take their sermon to the voters at the polling units.
Has that in any way undermined the integrity of election being conducted by Inec? Because that's what people are saying out there.
You see,
vote buying.
You see, there's vote buying, but you cannot say vote buying will erode the elections, because what is the percentage of vote buying to the number of registered voters there? It's a bad thing. And again, what can INEC do about it? For instance, if some people have been paid, if we are in this polling unit here in this place, and some people have been paid in Yanya to come and vote here, what we are seeing in front of us is the voter and the PVC. You cannot say they should not vote. You cannot determine whether they are even voting according to their conscience or not. So, I think for vote buying, is the voter that we need to appeal to the most. Because if you have integrity, if you believe in democracy, if you think that you should not compromise your vote, then no vote buyer will be able to convince you.
I think we have to appeal to some unscrupulous INEC officials too. 2 of them were arrested in this last by-election in Edo State.
Look, for the by-elections in all, we deployed 30,451 staff, and 2 were said to have committed offenses. Look at the percentage. What I'm saying is, whether it is 1 or half, it's bad enough. Our staff, for the most part, are very hardworking, even beyond the call of duty. I can assure you of that. And they put in a lot. They don't even get paid enough for what they do. That's the truth. But again, you may have some errant members of staff who give in to temptation, but they also know the consequences. For instance, the police are investigating the case. We are not going to interfere with the police. You are talking to the one that happened in Ikene or Remo area. Yeah, we are not going to interfere. We've heard about it. It's very unfortunate, but we are leaving the police, the law enforcement, to investigate first and establish those offenses, and then tell us what they have done. What we have been reading has been the newspaper narratives and all that. But the real report will come for the police to say, okay, we arrested these guys, we have investigated, this is the report of investigation, then they have to be taken to court. It is at that time the INEC can then take action, on these people. So, but if the police has not communicated to us, we will just wait for them to. So, in other words, don't look at INEC in terms of just 1 or 2 members of staff that have been arrested. That's not INEC.
Okay. If your BIVAS is working effectively, how about your polls reporting platform? In fact, shortly after we started getting the results in 2023, it collapsed. And then that threw a lot of spanner in the works. Till tomorrow, politicians are still blaming INEC for not allowing results to be transmitted from the polling unit to the INEC server. What is even the state of the server today?
Well, you are talking about the Inec resolving portal. And let me tell you my story about IREV. The commission invented IREV to engender transparency. And I think that many people, either intentionally or mischievously, decided to misunderstand the purpose of IREV. IREV does not collate election results. And the politicians know that. So blaming IREV for their failure to win election is just like pretending not to know what the truth is. There are 2 things. Elections take place at polling units. All over the country, we have 176,000 polling units. That's where elections take place. That's where results are declared. And each political party is expected to nominate an agent to monitor what is going on there and to obtain a copy of the results. And they do that. Some of them will not nominate candidate agents. That's not our fault. Some will. That's also not our fault. That's what the law says. So, if you don't nominate agents to monitor the result, and you are then saying that because there was a glitch that happened for a period of time, if you check today as we speak, all those results are there, except for areas that we are cancelled and all of that. The results of the 2023 presidential election are on the IREF. We had a meltdown, which was very unfortunate, because that will be the first time we will use IREF in a presidential national election. So we ran into an unexpected glitch. And let me tell you, I always tell people, even your phone that you use, it runs into a glitch some of the time. Some of the bigger platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like YouTube, have had occasion after the election that for 24 hours, 48 hours, nobody could send any message through WhatsApp all over. MTN could not even, you couldn't even make calls. It has happened. And then they will apologize. So we had a meltdown and we dealt with it. It took some time on election day. But you see, the IREF is the last stage of everything. Election are taking place. Results have been declared. Agents have their copies. So those who claim to have that we rigged the election, all they needed to do was to harvest those polling units called from EC 8As and present them to the court. They didn't do that. They got to court and started talking about other things. And of course, they couldn't win. But the truth of the matter is that IREF, I compare IREF to the scoreboard in the stadium. You know, you are in the stadium and two teams are playing a match, and you see 0-0 at the beginning of the match, and then a team scores. After scoring, they post it 1-0. There will be another 10 minutes, another team scores, the other team, team B, equalizes it becomes 1-1. Then maybe just before halftime, team A scores again, it becomes 2-1. So you can see cause and effect. That's exactly what IREF is. IREF is there to just display what is uploaded. It doesn't change the figures, it doesn't add anything, it just shows the result of a polling unit posted. If the presiding officer does not post it, it will not be there. And that's what presiding officers are expected to do. In the process of doing that, and the sheer amount of the quantity of results that were coming caused a little bit of glitch that made it difficult for them to access. And we discovered what was wrong with it eventually and fixed it. But those results are there. So it is not IREF that will change the results. It's not going to change it. If the results are even coming in JPEG form, you can't tamper with a JPEG form. If you tamper with it, it will be very clear that you tampered with it. If somebody writes something and cancelled it, that's exactly how it will appear. So IREF is not a result collating portal. It's just there to display what has been sent by the presiding officer from the polling units. Will
presiding officers, will they be able to send results? Are they able to send results now from the polling units?
Of course. You know, we had post-2020 general election review meetings. And we had meetings with our internal officers, that's our staff, our collation officer, our ad hoc staff, to review the elections. What happened? We do that after every general election, after every governorship election, whether it is within the context of the general election or the off-season general election. After every election, we review what lessons have we learned. And all of them submitted this was what happened, this was what happened. We have used that to improve
on the system.
On the system. And concerning the beavers, you know, the beavers has, if you are deploying a beavers to a polling unit and there are 500 registered voters in that polling unit, the number, all the registered voters, their details will be domiciled in that beavers. And it does not need internet connectivity to function. That's why when you get there, accreditation takes an average of 1 to 2 minutes.
But it needs battery.
Yes, it needs battery, but we have the battery, we have extra batteries. The battery life that we use for things can last like 10 to 15 hours.
Wow.
Yes, and we also have the means, we have the power banks to charge them in case they run out of, and you know, in the context of election is polling units are expected to open 8:30 in the morning and 2:30 p.m. depending on the last person legitimately on the queue.
Okay.
So BVAS has been performing, and even all of the candidates all of the political parties that had candidates for the 2020 presidential election agreed that BVAS performed well in terms of accreditation.
Yes.
There was nothing wrong with BVAS because it doesn't need internet and it functioned well. It was the process of uploading, because it's the same BVAS that you use to snap the picture of the from ECHAs, which is the polling unit result, to then upload to things. It is in the process of doing that there was a problem. You know, the entire country is not well covered with 5G. We had discussions with the communication companies.
Yes.
There are areas that have 5G, there are areas that have 4G, but you will be shocked. There are some areas that is just 2G. So the speed with which
no G at all.
Yeah, the speed with which you can upload will be very slow in those areas. So, and we have provision for offline. For instance, if you finish at a polling unit as a presiding officer, you will send it offline.
Okay.
And you move from there to the next level of collation. So as you are moving, anywhere you get to that you hit the network. It will just, you won't even know, it will just take it
to deliver.
To deliver it.
Okay.
So for these by-elections, the results are there on IREF. You can go to IREF Night now and look at any constituency out of the 16. You click on the registration area, you click on the polling unit, you will see all the results there.
Okay. This is Polity. You can join us, you can be part of the program. We have an Inec official, the press secretary to the Inec chairman in the house, Mr. Rotimi, Oyekanmi. You can call to ask him questions as the program progresses. But now we just take a short break. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to Kaftan TV. The Polity is the program that is going on, and we are with the INEC Chief Press Secretary to the chairman in the house. Now, quickly, one major problem that people have been pointing accusing fingers to as to why we keep having this issue of low turnout of voters is that INEC has kidnapped many people's huge number of prospective voters, their voters card. If you go to any local government office of INEC, you will see huge pile of uncollected voters card. In fact, there are people that have been calling on our programs to say that they've turned INEC offices into a pilgrimage of sorts to look for their cards. What is really happening? Why INEC has taken all the trouble to get the biodata of a voter, and then you produced it and you are not able to deliver to them?
Well, the first thing I want to tell Nigerians is that for 2020 general election, less than 10% of the total number of registered voters had their PVCs uncollected. So majority of them, over 90%, already collected their PVCs for 2020 general election. And you know, we had 93 million registered voters.
Yes.
So that's the fact. But then it still doesn't mean that people should not collect their card. We have sensitized Nigerians. We have even asked for help from civil society organizations for people to go and collect their PVCs. And people are really collecting their PVCs. But we still need to do more. But voter apathy, I have a different opinion about voter apathy.
Oh.
For me, I think that the fact that people cannot vote from wherever they are on election day needs to be looked into. And there are two approaches. It's either we allow early voting or we allow people to vote wherever they are. But again, allowing people to vote from wherever they are has security implications, because you always have fifth columnists who want to subvert the process. Because there's a reason why we have it in our laws that you can only vote where you registered. There's a reason for that. Even with the law, some people still try to subvert the process. That's why Inec is constantly evolving. You know, rather than focus on the conduct of election, we have to worry about security breaches and spend a lot of money doing that. For instance, our ballot paper is to currency quality. We have to impute codes, because you will find a situation where some people will go and print ballot papers and try to subvert our so we have a unique challenge that no other election management body in the world has. The kind of issues we deal with, and people have no idea what these challenges are. We are not complaining, but again, we will continue to do our best in whatever circumstances we find ourselves. So, if, for instance, people can vote for anywhere, many people, if you register in Abuja, for instance, and for one reason or the other, whether for job appointment or for greener pastures or whatever, or marriage, you leave Abuja for Lagos or for Kano or Kaduna, it means you can't vote because your polling unit is in Abuja. What you then need to do, if you're able to do it in time, is to transfer your polling unit from Abuja to where you are. But some of our voters don't take advantage of that. When we say, okay, like now, CVR has started. On the online portal, on the portal that we have, you have services that you can use to transfer your polling unit from where it is now to wherever you want it to go. And another PVC will be printed to reflect that change. So Nigerians have this opportunity to do that. And again, voter apathy is a worldwide phenomenon. If you check, even the elections conducted in European countries, you find that they don't have...
Somebody wants to talk to you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Kaftan TV. This is The Polity. Please go ahead. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please go ahead.
Oh, the line has gone.
No, it hasn't gone. I can hear you.
You are hearing me, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you. The voters apathy by Nigerians.
Yes.
INEC is now in the course now.
Yes.
When they introduced these givers, we all jubilated that yes, he is genuine. Are you hearing me?
Yes, clear.
But later,
yes.
The givers, when they use the givers will give the accreditation. It will give the number of votes, people, the voters that voted, number of genuine votes givers will give. But INEC will just rely on the result sheet, the one they manipulated, the registered voters. Who did not even call, they just carry that result and forward it to them, and they will announce. And the court will say, yes, this is the correct listing based on the results given by the INEC. What are these INEC officers to say? Because they are the one cutting these voters up now.
Okay. Please, your name and where you are calling from.
My question.
Your name and where you are calling from.
I'm Richard from Araba.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. He has heard you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It says INEC does not follow what the PVAS says. They write the results, the number of voters, they write it on a plain sheet to send to the court in case there is any litigation.
You know, I think Nigerians need to be careful when they make allegations.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Yes, welcome to Kaftan TV.
Yemi Asaji is my name. I'm calling from Ilorin.
Ilorin, okay, please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to commend Mr. Oyekanmi for his elaborate enlightenment.
Thank you.
He has really done well. Now, in most of the elections you have conducted,
Can respond.
some infractions were traceable to INEC officials, mostly those you refer to as ad hoc officer. Now the question I want to ask is this: is there no way you can request for funds from federal government to recruit permanent staff so as to prevent this so-called INEC ad hoc staff from circumventing electoral processes?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Then, like the issue of what is it called, voters' apathy. I don't want to believe completely that the so-called voters' apathy is responsible for the low turnout. You know, before the introduction of these devices, the number of high votes that were turned out in some areas can no longer be, because that was the time people were writing results.
Yes.
I think you're getting, so the people can no longer write results because they have to go through the normal process.
Okay.
So all these things need to be looked into.
Okay.
There is one other thing I had wanted to say, but I have forgotten.
Oh.
So
no problem, sir.
INEC is doing well.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Just like you said, there are two parties: those who win and those who lose.
Yes.
Those who lose, we always condemn INEC.
Yes.
And those who win, we always praise INEC.
Yes, sir.
Because I cannot fathom any reason why PDP that wins in a particular area is praising INEC, and the same PDP who lost in another area is condemning INEC.
Okay.
And like that with other political parties.
Thank you,
I
sir.
believe God will guide you people aright.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
Be able to conduct the type of election that will be effective, but there is no how you do it. It will not get 100% acceptance from people. But what is important is do it the way you have been trained to do it.
Okay.
And God will reward you for it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I will just allow Mr. Oyekanmi to just make some comments on those two calls.
Thank you very much. We don't manipulate the beavers. You can't manipulate the beavers. And I need to explain what the beavers really does. The beavers is used for authentication and accreditation. One, the beavers contains the number of registered voters in a particular polling unit. Two, the beavers is used to snap. Not to write, you can't write any, you can't enter anything there. In fact, the person that holds the beavers cannot access more than a particular region of the beavers. You put on the beavers, you enter your code as the person authorized to use that beavers, and that's all it is. All other functions that you can't change or manipulate or modify. If you attempt to modify, the thing goes up, and there's an alert system that we hit up at the central server that these beavers, somebody is trying to tamper with it. So we have a lot of checks and balances. Every beaver is linked to the headquarters. So if you do anything funny with the beavers, either you try to remove the battery or you try to do anything, the beavers will just cease functioning. And then we know that something is wrong with it by the time we run the background checks and see what you have done. So the beaver is an excellent machine. It solves problems. So we don't manipulate election with the beaver. So I just want to correct the impression of that first gentleman.
Yes.
I appreciate what the second gentleman talked about.
Yes, from Ilorin.
From Ilorin. He understands perfectly the dilemma we face. And again, it comes to this spirit of sportsmanship that I talked about, that when you are going to an election, don't just have this belief that you must win, because you may not win. So you have to prepare your mind. It's a contest. You prepare, the other person prepares, and Nigerians are going to determine who they want to, and it's a game of numbers.
Yes.
You will have those who will vote for you, you will have those who will vote against you. So if the number of those who vote against you is more, then of course you are not going to win the election. Okay. So we as the umpire don't have anything to do with that. But when we now announce the result, they take it out on us that we must have done something.
Quickly now, because of our time, will INEC register more political parties before 2027?
We are not against registering political parties, but there are processes that need to be fulfilled. Right now, at the last count, we had about 151 associations that have submitted letters of intent for registration. And the next step is we have created a portal. The next step is for them to go on the portal and apply. For instance, the initial clearing will be done, and I'm sure that this week or at most the next, we'll give another update. We have been giving a weekly update on the number of associations that have submitted letters of intent. So when you scale to the letter of intent stage, you then go to the application stage. It is at the application stage that you will now need to upload all your evidences, all the documents that we need, and then we check all these things. And if you are able to scale through, then you are registered as a political party, because there is no bar, there is no limit to the number of political parties to be registered in Nigeria. Our own is that we have that mandate and responsibility to ensure that a political party is what is meant to be, according to what the Constitution says.
That's where I'm even going now. The political party is what it should be, what is supposed to be according to the Constitution. But we have political parties that do not even have offices in local government, not to talk of the world level. You have political parties that have shops, small kiosks as their offices in some places. Why will Inec always register a national party? Why not just have a regional party that their interest is just maybe Southwest or even Ogun State?
Well, the Constitution did not envisage regional parties or local parties. All political parties must be national. I mean, you can't register a political party and say just an ethnic group or a professional group of people must be members. No. Then if you want to establish that kind of association, it's not a political party. And another thing is that the fact that you establish a political party does not mean you own the political party. You may be the purveyors, you may be part of those who put all the paperwork together, but once a party is registered, it takes a life of its own. You don't own a political party. You now have to go through all the administrative processes to ensure that the party continues to meet the minimum requirement to remain as a political party. And like you said, if you try to deceive the commission that you have offices and by some measure you escape detection, by the time you carry out other checks, you won't accept detection. That's why we said that, we also have the power to deregister. Because if you no longer meet the minimum requirements to stay registered, we are going to deregister you. And that's why after the last general election, when we carry out checks, we were able to deregister over 70 political parties. So if you get registered, and after a period of time, after conducting elections, general election and FCT, Federal Area Council election, and we carry out the normal checks, and you don't meet the minimum requirement as stipulated in the Constitution, Section 225A, then of course you will be deregistered. Why
are some politicians blaming Inec for the crisis in their party, for the unending crisis in their party? For instance, PDP, for a very long time, some of them blamed the INEC either for recognizing somebody they do not want to occupy office, or even not recognizing the person they want to be in the office. Why is INEC partisan in some of these crises?
Thank you for the question. We are not partisan. We are not happy at all. We have just 19 registered political parties, and for us it will not serve any good purpose for any party to be in crisis. The first thing we do is, if we notice a crisis, we have a desk called Alternative Dispute Resolution, and we have actually applied that to solve problems. But if you indicate interest in making use of that desk, of that department, and we call all of you together and you agree only for somebody to go out and go to court, then it's out of our hands. So political parties have a responsibility to manage their affairs. And if there are factions, it means somebody is aggrieved. Their constitution should be able to guide how they resolve those issues. So it has nothing to do with INEC. What has happened is that when you have chairman of a political party and secretary of a national secretary going separate ways, then of course we will have to apply the law. For instance, as a political party, if you are nominating candidates and you are sending a list to Inec, so such letters must be signed by the national chairman and national secretary. So if one of the parties sign, we will not accept it. We will just refer them to the regulations to say this letter was received, but it did not meet the threshold for acceptance. Therefore, you need to do another letter and make provision for the secretary, or maybe the secretary decides to write Inec without the chairman's signature. So those are the little things, but we don't make so much noise about these things. But it will not be correct for any party to blame Inec. You know, they need to blame themselves and look inwards and see that they need to resolve their differences. It's not us. Okay. And if we offer them alternative dispute resolution, they decide to take advantage of that and they go to court. Of course, we have to allow the courts to decide the matter.
Okay, I have 2 questions left, except you allow you make me to ask the third. Yeah. Now, people say that INEC is doing too much. INEC will be the one to register political party. INEC will be the one to check their primaries. You know, INEC will organize election. It is the same INEC that will go to court. Why not just unbundled INEC? Has such a thought occurred to those of you in INEC?
Well, those who say that we have too much burden, is there any area of our function that we have not performed well? Nobody has said we didn't perform well in one thing. You know, I'm carrying a load on my head, I'm not complaining. So somebody else is complaining on my behalf. You can't drink Panadol for somebody else's headache. You know, we are not complaining. We have some functions assigned to us by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we are doing it. If it pleases the legislature, the National Assembly, for instance, to remove some of the functions from, so be it. But we are not complaining, and nobody has ever said INEC is lacking in XYZ. Everything that the Constitution gives us the mandate to do, we do it excellently. We are not perfect, and we're always open to advice, we're open to correction, but you will not find us wanting in those core functions that the Constitution has given to us.
Okay. Lastly, because you're not giving me any reason to want to continue. People say that INEC, yes, we know now, why would they not take that kind of action? They will not go against the person that appointed their leader or their chairman. And so people are advocating that, no, the president should not appoint the INEC chairman. Are there some things that they are seeing in the activities of INEC that make people believe that, from what we are seeing, INEC cannot be truly independent? Is INEC truly independent?
To the best of my knowledge, and without any fear of contradiction, the Commission is independent for as far as I know. I've been in INEC now for 9 years plus, and I have never heard or seen evidence of anybody coming to tell the INEC chairman what to do. Because the good thing with INEC is that you can easily see it when we are going the wrong way, and you can challenge it. And we are challenged. Even with doing the right thing, people still challenge us, because that right thing does not favor them. Therefore, they will challenge. But like 90% of the time, we always win, because we are not interested in being biased. We just want the truth to be known. The Commission has no say in the appointment of its chairman, national commissioners, or resident electoral commissioners. No. With regard to resident electoral commissioners, we have the power to discipline them to an extent, but we cannot sack them. The same thing, national commissioners cannot be sacked by the Commission, right? And so the chairman of INEC too has his own procedures to be appointed. So if people want these things to be done, they need to go to the executive and probably, you know, activate the National Assembly to put that into the amendment, to say, okay, this is, and spell it out, this is how the INEC chairman should be appointed. They should change what is there now, and it's not for us. For us, whatever the law says should be done is what we are going to do.
Dr. Mahmood will complete his tenure in November. We've had
December 5.
December 5.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, We wish him the very best.
Thank you very much.
And I must thank you for coming on the program and for telling us that the hands of the Inec is not tied in any way.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. This is where we call it a date on the program. Do join us tomorrow on Polity by 2 p.m. I am Shegun Ojelade. Bye-bye.